Hello, hello. All right, let's get rolling here. All right, I'm being told that I got some performance issues, so I'm going to close some of my tabs here. Make sure I don't close the questions. How's everybody doing? Hope we're doing well as we're getting loaded up, and hope you're having a good week as we wrap up Q3 and get into Q4. All right, we should be good to go now. Okay, let's go. Get some questions. All right, we got Bob Gigore. I hope I said that right. Question is, how should I approach price point testing when my primary pricing consideration, customer acquisition cost, is unknown? Background. In the spring, I tested my SAT prep software at a $249 price point and did not generate any sales. During testing, I uncovered a similar product that is free. I do believe I have valuable differentiators for this product, and I want to test the market at a lower price point, around $30 to $50. Elevator pitch. Expert SAT Math is a membership-based website which helps high school students realize their goals and dreams through mindset and incentive-based SAT Math prep. All right, so yeah, coming across a free offer, that's difficult, right? But I think you have the right mindset here in terms of whenever we're talking anything related to marketing and you say, what's better or how do I know what to do? The answer is always test, test, test. So what you want to do is split test the different ranges that you're looking at. Obviously, you started with a split test of $249, and that gave you a goose egg. So that's probably too high of a price point. But I don't know what you're using for your landing page or your funnel software, but in most softwares like the one that we use, it allows you to create two different options and split test and run those side by side. So you run a few bucks in ads at each one and see what the conversion rate is based on the different price points. And then you see what brings you the most dollars in revenue. So obviously when you raise your price, you're going to have a lower conversion rate, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's not the right thing to do. So for example, if you run it to 100 people and 100 people come and visit your page, and at $50, 20 people buy, and that ends up being $1,000 in revenue. But at $30, 25 people buy. Yes, you have more customers, but at 25 people at $30 is only $750 in sales. So you want to look at what the conversion rate and then over time what the acquisition cost of the different price points are. And you just optimize it and test different levels and see what ultimately gets you the most bang for your buck in the long run. Mariel Goodrich. Question. Should I set different pay rates for private versus public events for my team? When we do private events, the background here, when we do private events, my team members are fully paid for by our clients. I started with only private events and charge $50 per hour per support staff. I'll bartend, keeps $25 an hour, and my team makes $25 an hour. Now that we have started doing public events, it is a huge risk to guarantee $25 an hour plus tips. If we do not get any business, I get crushed by payroll. However, the outdoor events are exhausting, hot, and require an incredible amount of physical labor, so it seems wrong to pay less for these. Not sure what to do. My team is already becoming spoiled, and I need to rethink how we pay and what my expectations are from them. I realize that will be addressed when I create an employee handbook. So lots to unpack in this question here. First off, I would question whether you need to do public events in the first place. If you're saying you've got a proven profitable model in the private events and the public events are a huge risk for no reward, or relatively no reward so far, and your team likes going to work at them less, why not just focus on going and getting more private events? There's plenty of people in the private event space, especially, I know, Mariel, that you're down in Southwest Florida. I think it's Southwest. I know South Florida. There's, especially now with kind of this migration to events being run in places where the states are open, and one of those states being Florida, I would think that you could probably focus your efforts. If I was looking at, going into an area that's more profitable versus less profitable, and if the more profitable line happens to also be the one that's more exciting and more pleasurable to you and your team, then I'd go all in on that. So I would look strategically at, do you need to go, are these public events, is there a reason you need to do them because it's making you have a broader brand awareness, a higher brand awareness in the community? And if that's the case, and the public events are leading to more private events, then think of that as a loss leader and then just grin and bear it on those public events where you're losing it. And a loss leader basically is something that you have to do even though you're losing money in order to make more profits elsewhere. That's what a loss leader is. So if the public events are not a loss leader, then I would look at just only doing private events. In terms of your comment towards the end about my team is already becoming spoiled and I'm going to be able to readdress my expectations with them once I get my handbook created, if you need to readdress expectations, I would not rely or think that a handbook is going to get that done. And this is true for everybody watching this. Creating a handbook is a document that you give to your team when they join your team. It is not, a handbook will not guide your culture. So I would strongly rethink if you need to have those expectation conversations, do that now. Do not wait to get a handbook documented. Because if you try to change, I remember when I was a kid, I hadn't thought about this memory in a long time, but when I was a kid going through puberty, my parents gave me a book on what your body is doing when you're going through puberty. And they said, ask me if you have any questions. That wasn't a good way for me to experience going through puberty, right? Don't let your employees go through that phase of your business in the same way using an employee handbook. Talk to them, have conversations, open those conversations, and just do it organically. So next, Nadia Savyuk. I live in the Chicagoland area and I want to go off on my own to a bigger salon and rent out chairs and suites. Only problem is I'm not showing enough of my money to buy something on my own yet. I was wondering, what do I have to do to get there? Open a bunch of credit cards under my name. In the business description background is I'm a hairdresser and I want to expand my salon to a bigger salon with chairs and rent them out. So the first thing you need to do, Nadia, is do what's called a break-even analysis. And so every business has two types of costs. There are fixed costs and there are variable costs. So a fixed cost, for example, would be renting that chair. A variable cost would be, the variable cost high level is, so fixed cost is you have to pay it no matter who shows up. Variable cost is a cost for every time you have a customer that comes through. So a fixed cost is renting a chair. A variable cost in your case might be if every person that comes through and gets a haircut, you have to put some pomade in their hair. Then you're using a little bit of that pomade every time, so you might be spending 50 cents in pomade for every haircut. So if you charge $10, and I'm not saying this is what you charge, but if you charge $10 for a haircut, then it's 50 cents comes off the profits of that for each haircut in pomade costs. So you need to run a break-even analysis where you say, based on your fixed costs of the rent of your chair and the variable costs. So if your chair is $1,000 a month, let's just make the math easy, and you get $50 per haircut. If you had no variable costs, to break even on that $1,000 a month for the chair, you need 20 haircuts in a month. If it costs you $1 in product or whatever, in terms of cost to service that each haircut, that means your net margin on the variable costs of your haircut is $19. So then you take the $1,000 and divide it by 19, and it ends up being probably like 21 or 22, that's how many haircuts you need to break even after factoring in your variable costs. So when you run a break-even analysis, that way you're doing this instead of going, I want to caution you, don't just go and throw a bunch of stuff on credit cards and go hope that people show up. I want you to have targets to say, what do I need to break even on that bigger chair that I'm going out and renting out of my salon? And then back into, if you look at the clients that you have right now, back into how did you get those clients? And if it's going to maybe, I don't know if this is how you get your business, but if you go to a local, makeup event or a local charity event and talk about, hair, your hair or what you do, or you give away, bring in a friend and you get a free haircut, or whatever your marketing activities are, reverse engineer how much activity you need to do to get to that one haircut, and then find out what your break even is on how many haircuts you need to sell, basically sell per month, meaning how many clients you need to get, and then start doing that activity. And I would stay as long as you can on the, getting your steady paycheck until you've hit your break-even analysis. That way you're not having to go negative and go into debt each month to start your new business. And I know a lot of salons, depending on what your contract is with your current salon, when you're an employee at a smaller salon, sometimes they don't allow you to tell your clients where you're going because they want to keep those clients. So if you're planning this in advance and you have a social media account, you may, for the next couple months as you cut your hair, you may want to tell your clients, hey, I'm going to be giving away some tips on, how you style your hair on Instagram or on Facebook. I'd love you to follow me. Then you're building up your personal, and this can be your personal name. It wouldn't be like whatever your new salon's going to be. It would be your personal name. That way, even if your salon does have a contract that says you can't tell your clients where you're going, now when they follow you and you make an announcement and say, hey, I'm doing my thing over here, come visit me at this salon, you have a way to get in touch with your clients. So that's how I would kind of go through that process. Do the break-even analysis, find out how many clients you need to have to make sure you can cover your bills, and then reverse engineer the activities you need to do to get to that point, and then start the process of getting your current clients where your current salon owns them going to follow you so that you have a way to communicate with them. Carrington Crothers. How do you know if having a business partner is the right decision for your business? Background. I am a commercial product photographer, and the other day I had someone approach me with a pitch to partner with me on my business. I know they have a solid photography background, but don't know how to know if and when those decisions are made or the steps that are taken to come to a decision. I feel I'm in a position where my business is slowly starting to take shape and get traction, but this pitch caught me off guard and I don't know what to think about it. So, when you're looking at a partner, you shouldn't have a partner is essentially, a partnership is a marriage. And I heard a quote a couple years ago that I thought was really good, and it was actually when my wife and I, this was maybe a decade ago now, but my wife and I are doing our premarital counseling, and they said that if you never have any disagreements in your business or in your marriage, then that means one of you is irrelevant. Because if you're the same person, one of you is irrelevant. And that's true in a partnership too. So if you both have the same skills and you're the exact same person, it doesn't make a good partnership because you might as well have the full business yourself. There's no one to complement your skill sets. And so number one, a partner needs to complement your skill sets. And number two, it needs to be something that requires some sort of ownership stake rather than just a skill that you can hire out as an employee. Because if you're going to have a partnership, you're giving up significant equity. For example, I'm in public accounting. There's two core services in the public accounting space. There's the tax service, and then there's assurance services. And most people, when they think of a CPA, they think of doing taxes. But there's a whole other side that's assurance work that's meaning reviewed financial statements, audited financial statements. So when you're going to sell your business, you get an audited financial statement so that the prospective buyer knows these are good books. Or if you're going to get a loan, a bank asks for an audited financial statement. That's a whole different skill set and a whole different license. So I have a business partner that is the assurance client or assurance partner, and I'm the tax partner. He is a CPA, has no clue how to fill out a tax return. I'm a CPA, have no clue how to do an audited financial statement. So we have complementary skill sets that are partners that makes it justifying bringing a partnership together. In your situation, this person is another photographer. So unless there's some sort of synergy where you're photographing nature and they're photographing weddings, and it's a market that you don't have access to that you're now getting access to because now you can combine and there's this unique market for nature weddings that you can capture and create a whole new space in your industry, or you are horrible at operations and what this partner is going to do is going to come in and run the business of your business so that you can go out there and take amazing pictures and go focus on what you're going to do best, knowing that the business side of the business is going to be taken care of. Then that might make sense to bring on a partner. If it's just another photographer and you like, celebrating together and giving each other high fives, then I would form a very small accountability group and grow your separate businesses together. But if it's someone who can complement our skill set, then that's when I would look at actually offering partnership. Brad Coleman. How do I figure out the next steps when I'm lost in taking the company to the next level? Business description and background. Hello, we have talked about foundation before and taking steps to building a brand and brand awareness. I feel as of right now, I'm just starting to get traction with my target audience, meaning followers on social networks, people interacting with me online, feedback on my products, face-to-face interaction at shows where I get all good responses and reactions, as well as sales starting to pick up and people wearing my apparel. How do I know what the next step is, or should I keep doing what I'm doing and slowly continue and let it all fall into place? Elevator pitch. Hello, my name is Brad Coleman, founder of Carbon Thread Designs, a luxury auto sport apparel fashion brand that creates and designs apparel for the auto enthusiast while incorporating carbon fiber into our designs. Brad, first off, congratulations on getting traction. That's amazing. I guarantee so many people watching this right now would be thrilled to be in your shoes and getting that traction. One thing I will caution you against is a lot of entrepreneurs have this syndrome and this issue, and I fault it. I'm one of these myself. And when I think back to what I was doing when I first started getting traction, I started to make this mistake and had a mentor course correct me. So don't get shiny squirrel syndrome. So when things start to get a little traction, a lot of times what entrepreneurs, if you've ever heard of the book Traction, or there's a book called Rocket Fuel by Gino Wickman that I would strongly recommend you read. He talks about two personality types that need to be at the head of an organization. One's a visionary and one's an integrator. And the visionary type is usually the entrepreneur that goes out there, is outward facing, gets the brand going, which sounds like a lot of stuff that you're doing. And then the integrator is the person who makes stuff happen behind the scenes and is in charge of executing. What visionaries tend to like to do is when things start to go a little too well, and things going well can tend to equate to things are boring, because it's just, you got to have that patience of letting it bear fruit and basically see the seeds that you've planted come to fruition and have the tree start harvesting fruit. And visionary types don't like to wait for that tree to harvest fruit because it takes a while. And so they start doing new things. So I would caution you, if it's starting to work and start to get traction, stay the course. Don't look for the next shiny object that's going to take you in a different direction. I did this when I started to get some traction in my accounting business, and I started to get some activity on social media. I thought it would be really cool to start going and doing social media for other accountants. I was like, hey, I'm really good at this. What if I just did it to new accountants? And what happened, number one, is to get that off the ground, I had to take energy away from growing my accounting firm and working on the systems and protocols that were necessary there. Second, what happened is within a couple months, the guy that was doing all of my content actually left to go find a new job. And I realized that it wasn't a business that I was running. It was a little hobby that was distracting me from my main business. So don't let those distractions happen. Just stay the course, let it bear fruit, continue building out the scale, building out the infrastructure, and do more of what you're doing if it's starting to work. Rajesh Morjani, I hope I'm saying that right. How can I find a suitable marketing co-founder for my startup? Background. I am working on an app by which students can get fluent in English online. We give Zoom-based classes to students where there are maximum 5 students in a class, so all of them get to talk and practice a lot during the session. The concept is getting very good reviews from the students, and I'm thinking it has a big potential for a worldwide audience. We have 2 batches filled so far, but there is scope to fill lots and lots more batches. My challenge is that I'm a software engineer by profession. I enjoy the product building part more than the sales and marketing part. So even though I've done the sales for the first 2 batches, I want to focus more on coding, development, and product, as that comes more naturally to me as compared to marketing campaigns and conversion rates, etc. Any ideas on how I can find a partner to complement my skills, as well as do's and don'ts to watch out for in that regard, will be helpful. So I would suggest you go to just go out and go out there and go to events. I was at an event a couple years ago, and someone was speaking, and they were talking about the importance of, he was an extrovert, and he was saying, go find an introvert, because introverts like to go do the work. And he was running a multi-million dollar business by just because he had found an introvert to do the work, and he was an extrovert going out and getting the business. And on the event Facebook group, multiple people posted looking for an introvert. Anyone know an introvert? And everyone was joking, because everyone there, because most entrepreneurs that are getting out there and going are that extrovert type, and they want to go out and network and be the face of the company. So I would, and this is going to be outside of your comfort zone based on your descriptions, your description of what you like to do. But if you go to a few large conferences, get out there, network, meet people, join groups like this one, network, meet people, find those extroverted entrepreneurial marketing types who are looking to pair with someone who wants to build a product. And then that's how I would go about finding it without spending a lot of money going in marketing, going and trying to find, or pay for that person. As far as do's and don'ts, I think culture fit. You've got to have a mutual values fit when you're looking for a partner. And so make sure you vet that well. Look at their historical performance, and if you don't want a loser, and you don't want someone who doesn't match your values. So find out what their values are and what they're looking to grow and do together, and find out what their track record is. Kristen Pitts. Question. What is the right way to start a new business under another business? Background. I have an apparel company, LLC, and plan to invest in a food truck business for my stepsister to run. If I have an LLC, can I get a DBA for the food truck, or what is the best route? So if there's similar businesses, meaning you have an apparel company and you're starting a shoe company, then I would say you could probably run it under the same entity, because it's, when you're looking at, you file your tax return, every business return has a 6-digit code that the IRS assigns you to, and they pull numbers based on everyone that's in that code. So if you're mixing multiple business types under one entity, it's going to throw that all off, and you have a higher likelihood of being audited if one expense type is way higher when you're mixing the entities. And the other thing is, people, and I'm not an attorney, so this isn't legal advice. I'm just speaking in generalities. People tend to think you get rich one or two ways in the United States. You either win the lottery or you sue somebody. And so we don't want, if someone gets sick off your food and gets food poisoning in the food truck business, leaving you exposed to the have being at risk for the apparel company. So I'd talk with an attorney about that to make sure that you have that separated the right way. But in general, I would probably lean towards having those separate, not just for liability purposes, but for audit purposes and just running the business as separate purposes. So you can have a holding company if you'd like, where the entity holds those, but that's not going to save you any taxes. It's just going to be more kind of privacy protection, so that if you don't want people knowing that you're owning the entity, and so I'd run those as two separate LLCs and have the LLCs taxed as S corporations, if that makes sense, depending on your individual tax situation. AJ Coots asks, how would you pursue an overdue accounts receivable with a client? The background is a former client owes us about 1.5 months of retainer for work performed in good faith. I've pursued this for about 2 months and they haven't responded to any inquiries. In hindsight, I shouldn't have carried on in good faith for nearly that long before ending the retainer, but I was caught off guard because things were running well, it seemed. What do you do in situations like this? Yeah, so those are situations where you kind of just got to learn, like you're what it seems like you're doing, learn, and it's an expensive mistake. It's what Keith Cunningham calls the dumb tax, and it is unfortunate, but yeah. So I would, in your case, I would assess, and still ping them every now and then. It doesn't hurt, depending on how much money we're talking about on the account balance. It's probably still worth making a phone call and a couple emails a couple times a month, and don't write it off your books yet. That way, you don't forget that it's there. If you're going to be eventually doing future work for them, what I find on these clients that in the past, before we make people pay up front, those clients that going to get behind on their bill, then when they get back to needing services again, then you got to catch up that bill before you'll start those services. So if you hope to eventually do work for them again, then I would leave that balance on and follow up every couple times a month and just use it as a lesson moving forward for all future clients. If you don't anticipate ever doing work for them again, there's always sending them to a collections agency, and then the collections agency will hound them, and then they'll collect a percentage of that, but then at least you get something's better than nothing. And thank you, Sean. I would love to chat with anyone here, and happy to be on the call. Stephen Davis, do you let your executive and virtual assistant read your email? Background, I've heard many business owners and CEOs allow their EA or VA to read their email. In theory, it would be great to have someone read and sort your email, but how does it work in practice? Do they read your email and delete the ones that are not relevant to you? Do they respond to emails on your behalf? Do they add items to your to-do list? How do you know if they deleted an email that was important or did not respond to an important email? Is this a task that I should delegate or keep doing myself? I run a PEO and HR consulting firm and receive around 100 to 200 emails a day. Of these, about 25 or so are actionable in a day. So short answer is yes, I let my executive assistant read my emails, and I've been doing that for about 3 years. And I don't know what I'd do if I had to go back to reading every single email that came through my inbox. In terms of how it works in practice, there's a little bit of a trust factor that takes getting used to. You have to be comfortable knowing that they're going to be reading confidential emails that come through. And in terms of worrying about them possibly deleting important emails, what I did is for the first few months, every day, I still read all my emails, and we would set aside, an hour a day or 30 minutes a day or whatever the time required was, depending on the volume of emails. And it either screen share if we're long distance, or literally pull her in and we'd sit side by side on the screen, and I'd go through and respond to my emails and say how I would like to see those emails sorted or archived or replied to. And so I put in we have a Tyler to read /reply inbox folder that all of the emails that I need to address get sorted into. Everything else, if it can get responded to by one of my team members, she forwards them to my team members for like a client to reply to. Or if it's something responded to my calendar, she will reply to emails on my behalf. Now, personally, and this is a personal preference because I know everyone handles it a different way, I don't like having her reply as me. I just feel like if I'm talking with a client and they think that I replied to them as me, then they think they might have a conversation acting like I replied to them in an email. So what I like to do is she'll reply from my email address, and that's fine, and say, hi, so-and-so, this is Brianne replying on behalf of Tyler. Let's get something on the calendar. Or Tyler's got a jam-packed calendar for the next 2 days. He'll be getting to this to you on Friday, whatever that happens to be. So she will reply to emails, but she'll reply and identify herself in that email, even if it's from my email address. So that's how I do it, and it's been a game changer for my productivity. There's just, there's so much that it's just admin stuff in your inbox or waste time that, and it also improves service because if, for example, if one of my tax managers can respond to the client because they are actively involved in the work faster than me going through my queue of emails, then the client gets addressed and serviced better from the person who's familiar with their work. And then it doesn't take my time, and I can focus my time on the bigger relationships in the business, on guiding the direction of the business, doing things like this, and adding value in different ways in the marketplace. So highly advise and am a proponent of having an assistant in your email inbox. And I will say it was weird for my team members to get used to, knowing that that anything they emailed me was going to get emailed. Now, we do as a policy in our business that, in general, internal communications go through Zoom or, if you use Slack, whatever, it's through internal chats, not through email. That helps from a security standpoint because if I see an email from someone internally, then I question it of maybe it's because there's a lot of spam and phishing issues out there. So it might be spam, so I want to double check what it is. But also, it still allows a confidential, if one of my team members wants to reach out to me confidentially and they don't want my assistant reading those emails, they can still send me a Zoom chat and know that my assistant doesn't read my Zoom chats for internal communication, if that helps. Heather Brockman, question. When sending an employee for a drug test, is it best to have them accompanied by a member of management? Background is, I recently had an issue with an employee involving one of my vehicles. We have on-site drug tests, but I realize I need to have an option for sending her to a facility for better accuracy. Is it best to have them accompanied by a member of management to ensure accuracy of the results? This doesn't seem to be a good use of time, but I also need to make sure the results would not be tainted at all. Elevator pitch, we offer high-end holistic grooming experiences for busy pet owners whose animals are part of the family. So in my mind, if you're sending the person to a facility, and this is with a big asterisk next to it because I don't lead a team that requires drug testing, but when I played sports in college, I was drug tested. So I have a little bit of experience on that side of things. And I know when we got drug tested, we had someone there in the bathroom with us that our university hired. So in my mind, if you're sending them to a facility, part of the fee you're paying to that facility should be to verify accuracy using some sort of, spot check. We don't need to get into those vivid details. But in my mind, that should be happening in the facility. So I would address it first with the facility, but if it is important to you and the facility is not handling it, either go find a different facility or if you're saving fees to the facility and they're not guaranteeing that they're going to watch someone participate or take the drug test and you need to accompany them by management, and it's important, we want to look at cost versus benefit, right? If the benefit of ensuring accuracy of the drug test is more than the cost of the time of sending management with you, because you're going to, if someone shows up on drugs on a job site, you're going to lose multiple future clients. Then you need to weigh that. If the cost of sending management is, you just really would like to make sure that they're not on drugs, but it's really not going to cost you business, then that's a personal decision you need to make. But first, I personally would start with the facility to see, is there any way that they can verify accuracy through the service that you're providing to them. Paulina Beck, question: what is the best order in which offer and rejection letters be sent out in? The background is just had the accounting manager, so accounting manager that I was looking to hire reject our job offer via text. Everything looked good, and she was ready to start. I have no idea what happened. I already reached out to the second candidate that I liked, asking to set up a call on Tuesday. I am looking to note the lesson on this. What is the best sequence to announce job offers? If I had to do it again, I am thinking that I would notify the candidate I want to pick first and give them a deadline. If they accept the offer, then I notify other candidates that the position has been filled. If the candidate rejects the offer, select my second choice and notify them. Yeah, so I would not alert any potential candidates that you have picked someone else until they showed up on that first day. Because, just like, think of when you're recruiting business owner, or when you're recruiting candidates in your business, it's the same thing as doing sales and marketing for clients. And how many times, at least I know I have in my business, have you gotten a verbal yes from a prospect and then they don't end up signing on to become a client? Or you've gotten a written yes and they never actually cut a check. They're not a client until they cut you a check and you start doing services for them, in my mind. Just same thing. They're not an employee. They're not a team member until they show up on the first day. And so depending on your timeline of, offer made to start date, ideal world, best scenario is you don't reject the other candidates until your number one choice has shown up on the job site. Now, we also don't want to get a reputation in the marketplace of being having a bad interview process and being slow to reply. So let's say second best, if the candidate, the first choice candidate accepts, and it's, call it 4 weeks out that they're starting, then I would wait till you have the signed offer letter to notify everyone else. So my kind of prospect is, we do the first, second round interviews. If we know that they're a no right away, then we tell them no, we've gone with somebody else. If they're a potential, they're a second or third choice, but they're not the number one choice, we don't say anything yet. And if they follow up and ask, I say, you kind of let them know, we've got, you're in our top considerations. We have another couple interviews coming and we'll keep you posted soon. Even if you've made an offer to somebody else, because you still don't know where you're at in that process. And so we make the offer to the top candidate, pending background check. And then usually I give them, can you let us know by X date? And I'd say, no more than 3 days. If it's a weekend, give them over the weekend to decide, but give them a deadline to decide, because number one, you need to start moving on if they're a no. Number two, you find out how good, they aren't making decisions. And number three, you want to make sure that it's also part of a negotiation lever. If you set a deadline, it makes them make a decision and puts a little heat on that decision. So extend the offer pending background check, if you do background checks, and give them a deadline to make the decision so that they can talk it over with their spouse or whoever, and then make the decision, and then with start date, and have that signed offer letter sent out to them right when you make the offer. So make the offer, offer letter to them with a 3 days deadline. And then once they accept or reject that offer within a few days, that's when then you go out and either notify the other candidates. If they reject your offer, then you say, let's go to the second in line and go do the same process to them. But once you make your top choice, don't go and tell everyone else that they're a no until you've talked to your top choice candidate. Mario Goodrich, should I be 1099 or W-2 right now? Background, I currently give out opportunities rather than schedules. I am an event-based business and no one works if no one calls. As soon as I receive a call, I first reach out to my prime pick for said event, then scroll down the log until I hit a winner. It is appropriately 2 to 4 gigs a month for top team members currently. Some HR and payroll companies say I need to make an immediate shift. Meanwhile, my best friend that still operates my old cleaning business gives an actual schedule and has been giving 1099s for years. I'm confused. So there's a lot more people giving 1099s than should be giving 1099s, number one. So just because somebody else says that you should do it doesn't mean you should actually do it. And this is one of those situations where it is a fine line, and I would err on the side of W-2 if you're not sure, even though it's going to cost you payroll taxes, because there's massive withholding penalties, and the IRS is getting more and more aggressive on going after those independent contractors. So generally speaking, if you're making their schedule and setting their schedule, they're a W-2. If they're independent and they're doing their own work on their own schedule, then they're 1099. So if they pick a gig, that doesn't mean that they're independent, because if they pick a gig, they have to show up. And so, it's difficult to give you a firm answer without kind of diving deeper into your business. But in general, if you're setting their schedule and they're required to do a certain number of gigs per month as part of employment with you, then they're probably employees. If they're truly just paid per job, they're on a flat rate where they show up whenever they want and they don't choose, and they're not penalized for not taking those jobs, then they might be 1099s. But if it's on the fence, I always tell people to err on the side of probably their W-2s. And just because your friend does it doesn't mean that you should do it. Jenny Dawson. Question. How do I know when is the best time to leave my full-time corporate job to pursue my small business full-time? Background. My business is a holistic wellness company specializing in yin yoga, meditation, and sound healing that I launched in 2017. I feel the momentum building with business opportunities, but I'm not driving enough revenue yet to rely on it as my primary source of income. If I could focus all of my energy on building the business, I would level up much faster as opposed to splitting my time between tasks for the corporate job and my small business. I'm taking on as much new business as possible, but nothing promising enough to give me reassurance that now is the right time to cut the cord. Help, please. Thank you. All right, so if you're going to leave your full-time job, perfect world is you leave when your side gig has fully replaced your full-time job income. So if you make 50 grand a year in your job and your side gig's 20, let's get you $30,000 more, then you can replace that. If you haven't gotten there yet, what we want to know is, do you have a predictable growth stream? And if you are able that you're only limited in that growth stream by the hours you can commit to it. Meaning, for example, like when I first started growing my firm, I was looking back at the beginning, and before I had a lot of social media channels and different business partnerships and influencer channels, I gave a lot of speeches to real estate offices. And every time I gave a speech, I got 3 or 4 clients at least. So if I had a side gig or I had a full-time job and I could only give 1 speech a month, but I knew that speech every month gave me 5 clients, and I could quit my job and I knew I could sign up 6 speeches a month instead, and it was going to give me 20 clients, then that's a predictable growth avenue that I know that if I quit my job and just go execute on that growth avenue, I'm going to be good on replacing my income within a couple months. If the way you get customers is kind of hodgepodge and you hope that they come in, or it's random referrals, that you're thinking, well, if I focus all of my energy, then it's probably going to come in more, then I would caution you to maybe stick out on the full-time job a little longer, because we want to have if you've got the full-time income replaced with what you already have, then go for it. Or if you're close or you're on a growth path and you know that the growth path that you're on would be increased by pouring more hours towards it, then I would say you can probably get to that point where you can move over into quitting your job. But it's best practice, in all the business owners that I know that kind of did that, where they had their full-time job and built this on the side, they waited as long as possible and just eked out that midnight oil as much as they could possibly stand it, to where their side gig was replacing and then doubling and then tripling their full-time job before they left that business. So I would caution leaving it too soon. Jenny Dawson, again, hi. So another question. So Jenny Dawson, question: should I pay the expense of business cards and uniforms for contractors? So background: my business offers yin yoga, sound healing, and meditation services. As business evolves and I am bringing on people to help me with events around the city, I want to make sure I am branding them properly. I am having embroidered shirts made with my logo and business cards designed for the contractors. Is it my responsibility as the business owner to purchase the shirts and business cards for the contractors, or should they buy their own? Thank you so much for the insights. I mean, ultimately, you control how people do business with you. Just like, a lot of accounting firms in my industry, they bill hourly at the end of the month. I made a strategic decision to bill in monthly fixed fees so that it's predictable revenue, and you pay up front so that we're getting the cash to pay our people up front, rather than billing 30 days later and then another 60 days goes by before we get paid. It's the same thing in your business. Ultimately, you make the decision on how you set up your contracts with your vendors and your contractors. So now I would absolutely, you control your brand. So if it's that important to you and you're getting pushbacks on your contractors that they're saying, hey, if I'm going to wear your shirt, you got to pay for it, and it's difficult to find contractors, then maybe you want to pay for it, just so that you say, look, it's important to me that my brand gets out there. So here's a shirt, here's a business card, I'm going to cover it for you. So you're basically staking value and an ownership in your brand. So if you want to own your brand and you're having difficult getting buy-in on these first few vendors while you're building your brand, then I'd say pay for it up front. As you get traction and get more notoriety in the marketplace, and it becomes a situation where contractors, it becomes a value add, where it's a benefit to them to work for you or be a contractor under your brand, then I would absolutely say you pay for the uniforms. But I see no qualms in, from the very beginning, saying contractors, you're responsible for paying your uniforms. And you can offer them a discount, maybe just pay for the cost, or you subsidize half the cost to encourage them to pay for their uniforms. But I know there's plenty of companies that even make their employees pay for their own clothes. I know, like Abercrombie and Fitch, for example. You got to wear Abercrombie clothes to show up on the store floor there. Now, you don't get those Abercrombie clothes for free. You have to pay for them. Now, you get a discount, but you still have to pay for them. So that's kind of the thought process that I would go through on the making contractors pay for the uniforms and business cards. And that is the end of the questions. And we're coming up on the full hour, so that's perfect. Hope you found that valuable. And thank you for all the good questions. And go take action on those things, because just writing down the notes does not get you moving forward. You've got to actually, as Tony Robbins says, knowledge isn't power. Knowledge is potential power. Taking action on that knowledge is what's power. So go take action on that stuff, and we'll see you on the next Q&A call next month. See you.